before going on, I forgot to mention this verb here, ἐτέκνωσε. It does not take an accusative object. Its object, so to speak, is in the genitive case. And one way we might be able to bring this out in English is to say that sky, or uranos, was the first ruler of the entire world. That would be one way to preserve that genitive flavor, so to speak. However, we should keep in the back of our minds that sometimes Greek will express something one way that is expressed differently in English. And this is just the way things are, and it's a beautiful thing. So going on, γήμας δεγέν ἐτέκνωσε πρώτους τοὺς ἑκατόγχειρας προσαγορευθέντας Βριάρεων Γύην Κόττον hoi μεγέθει ἀνυπέρβλητοι δυνάμει καθειστήκεσαν χεῖρας μεν ανά ἑκατόν κεφαλάς ανά πεντήκοντα ἔχοντες. Now, what we'll do is we're going to translate this, and then we'll go through and kind of pick it apart a little bit more and explain what's going on. So, after marrying, or really having had sex with gay, or we'll stick with earth, or we could say land, really this is the name. It's a little more, I think in poetry we find this, and that's what I think we're used to hearing, Gaia. So after marrying earth, or Gaia, and our subject here is still Uranos, so he sired, he didn't give birth to, but he helped procreate those who are called the 100-handed first. He sired, we might just say first, the so-called 100, I don't know why I'm capitaling this, but 100-handed. Yeah, why not? It's a name. The 100-handed. Vriarεων Γύην Κόττον. Those were the names who, let's say here, who became established as, or came into the state of being, or simply who were unsurpassed in both size or greatness and ability or power or might, who were unsurpassed in, we might say stature, their size. Well, let's say size, who were unsurpassed in size and ability or might, maybe stature and might, and might. And we get another participle here, and this is really explaining why. So, because they had, this is from the word echo, they had each 100 hands. I should say, on the one hand, they had 100, each had 100 hands, and each 50 heads. And we could kind of smooth that out in English, because we could say each had 100 hands and 50 heads. Now our first word here, this gήμας, this actually comes from the verb gameo or gamo, and that has to do with being wed, but, or it could have to do with just having had sex with. If you think about what kind of wedding would it really be when there's two people? So it could be that sexual act was what married them. So, and I think let's see, what kind of, we get a word like, is it gametes in biology that comes from the actual present form of the verb. And what we were saying here, ge, is the word we find here. We get that in words like geometry, geocentric, etc. This is another aorist, ἐτέκνωσε, again with our augment and our sigma infix. You'll come across a word, teknon, for child later on, or offspring. Πρώτους, so this is like before. Now this is actually modifying the not uranos or sky, not the subject, but rather the objects here. And this is our accusative plural, masculine accusative plural. ἑκατόν, so this, if you're familiar with Homer, you'll have heard of the ἑκατόν leading like 100. The ἑκατόν for a sacrifice, 100 animals. Χεῖρας, this you get a word in physics like chirality, the handedness of molecules, or I don't know if particles have chirality. Some physicists could let me know. Prosagorethentás, now this is the passive form of just addressing, so those who are addressed as or called, and so the so-called, those who were called. These are the three hundred-handed individuals. And then we get this relative pronoun here, who, and this is plural, this is what we would expect, masculine plural, masculine nominative plural, who, and again, came into this state. We get this word really from καθειστήκεσαν, who came into a state of being unsurpassed. Now this is an interesting word here. The way it's been put together, it's almost as if it's who were not overthrowable, might be a good way to say that, because this really comes from a word balo, from throwing or casting. Hyper, we've all probably come across before. Hyper, in Latin, super, or just over. And this negates whatever follows, and it is if what follows starts with a vowel. So not overthrowable or not surpassable. And then we get this is a construction we see quite often, both and. You don't have to be quite that literal. You could just say, you could put that in, who are unsurpassed, both in size and might. But in English, we don't always, these days, I don't know that we're that specific. Megathos here probably are not unfamiliar with a word like mega, meaning big. And we talked about dynamis last time. Not there. I cannot type. I have no. I am surpassable in typing abilities. Dynamic, dynamite, dynamism, dynamo. And then, as we were saying, this participle here, this is a present participle, so it's not happening before whatever the main verb was, but it happens at the same time. And here it's really just describing or explaining why. So because they had probably this word penta, pente for 5 isn't too hard to make out. Hεῖρας again, and then here the word kephalas for like encephalitis or something. And then one other interesting thing, the way the Greek expresses this is having hands, each of them 100, and this men de is a very famous Greek construction, kind of like on the one hand they had this and on the other. Typically don't translate that into English. And having heads, each of them 50 or 50 apiece or something. But I think the way we put that in English works pretty well there.